He is in the house. Why is this there? All right. All right. You guys hear? Somebody give me some feedback. Let me know. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, yeah. Can hear. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. All right. Let's get it popping. I got a good show planned. Um, I signed into my streaming software today. I use StreamYard, and they're pretty good, but they're always updating. And thank you, James. Aaron's choppy, very choppy. Let me make sure that I can close everything else. All right. All right, I'm going to keep talking. Let me know if it's getting any better. You guys could still hear me, I'm sure. I see my mic on. It's reading the signal from the mic. James says we're audible on YouTube. Judge Cohen, what's up, brother man? Good to see you. YouTube has smooth audio. Yeah. Yeah, I had a bunch of. It's not even worth explaining. I had to figure this shit out. The streaming software was different when I logged on a little while ago. It was like, okay, I guess I'm figuring this out in 5 fucking minutes. But it's all good. All right. So you guys don't come to me for technical streaming advice. I am not that guy. But I do have some shit planned for you today that I think everybody will be a little bit stronger because of it. All right. Before we get into that, you can go to the description. I got a bunch of cool stuff going on. I have been super productive lately, and I've had this sort of breakthrough. I've been talking about it in my mastermind group, where for years I've had a take on a lot of different topics that were very modular in their delivery. It's like I had a thing about this topic, and then I had another thing about this topic. And the meta model, which is the phrase and term I'm using, the meta model was still eluding me, like how I could present these things in one structured way where everything could be related. It's like all these houses are connected by roads in the same neighborhood now, right? And I got there, I got to that point. So super productive, just able to push some stuff out there. And two of those things I'm really proud of that I've done the last 2 weeks is or no, actually, no, one of them was longer than that, is my leadership alignment assessment, which the links in the description. And just this week, I released the Friction Audit, which I'm leaving at $9 for now. I don't know when I'll put it up to 47, but it's $9 for now. What you get for, like, never mind. I don't mean to say like this is something, for the price. You'd be stupid not to get it. It's like, yeah, we could say that at the end of it, but what this includes, I'm telling you right now, this one thing, understanding what friction is and how to deal with it and mitigate it and see it for what it is and assess it properly, has been probably one of the top 3 things I've used in my coaching the last 15 years to change men's lives. It's that important. Understanding friction is that important. The topic of today is a subtopic of what friction is. So the friction audit, the link's in the description. You should absolutely check that out. You're on Saxa. What's up, Don? Good to see you. All right. So the dead weight paradox. Now, this is a phrase, when I say that I had a lot of stuff that was modular up until recently, sometimes it was a model that needed to fit in the bigger model that I needed to sort of square away. Other times, and the dead weight paradox is an example of that, it was really just a matter of codifying a concept that I had described abstractly or maybe differently, inconsistently over the years, that I really just wanted to anchor to one name, right? And the dead weight paradox is the first time I'm talking about this publicly, right? So as you guys have questions, please feel free to post them on the chat. But I'll be honest. Right now, this thing's got all these new options, and I am trying to stay focused on where this stuff is. Right. So I did put the banners up, and I can't find them right now. Okay, but as usual, I have a list, right? You guys know I love my list. And today, the list is the 5 ways that deadweight allies quietly break you, right? Maybe not quietly. I don't know why I chose to put quietly there. I think I started off by saying it was something that you couldn't see. And then that just evolved into using the word quietly. We don't really need quietly. It doesn't always have to be quietly. But before we get into the list, I just want to talk a little bit more about the deadweight paradox, because the list really talks about applying the idea of the deadweight paradox. So the deadweight paradox describes how men, first and foremost, are not only defeated by the size or the scope and scale of their mission. A lot of times they're defeated by the weakness that's surrounding them. And a lot of times the weakness is represented in the people that are around them, their allies, the people that they're spending the most time with. The friction of the world, the challenges that the world presents to a man are significant. They're heavy, we could say. But what I'm trying to describe today, or at least articulate today, is how having dead weight allies is even heavier than that. Right? The world has plenty of issues before you start putting dead weight on top of yourself while you're trying to deal with them. The thing about dead weight is that it feels good at first. It's one of those things that, I think we could all relate to being around people that just make us feel good. They make us feel smart, strong, capable, accomplished. It's like we think at some point we don't have our shit together, and then we hang around people that are doing so significantly worse than us. And we're like, man, we really got shit squared away in our lives. And we know objectively that may not be the case, but being around these people tends to make us feel otherwise. And that starts to begin to describe the allure of being around people that I would categorize, as being dead weight. They make you comfortable. But the thing about that comfort is it's a trap. It's a sort of validation that over time begins to sort of poison the well. It begins to sabotage your momentum, the drive that you have to make yourself as powerful as you can become. This is the paradox. This is the deadweight paradox. You feel stronger because you're the most capable person in the room, right? Man or woman. I'll let you women hang on to this one because this absolutely applies to you too. But because you're the most capable in the room, what completely eludes you is that you're, in a larger sense, contextually becoming weaker because you're never going to be stronger than that room. You guys have heard me say, as I tend to put so eloquently, you don't want to be the smartest retard, the tallest midget. I couldn't be PC the whole way through the stream. You guys know me. But the idea of it is deadweight allies make you feel powerful while deceptively, paradoxically, destroying the very systems and the force that made you powerful in the first place. You are a certain way. People make you feel good for being that way. you suddenly start to change the relationship of the process that made you that way because you really like the way that feels, getting that feedback from those people. So we're going to get into the list. I hope that makes sense. We're going to get into the list, illustrating it further, and we'll take it from there. So I have 5 things here, and there are 5 ways deadweight allies break you, quietly break you. Doesn't have to be quietly, but let's get into them. I got to find these banners again, which I think I have. I'm not doing a countdown. I'm just doing 1 through 5. So I will say, just as a sort of disclaimer, they're not in any particular order. They probably are, but it doesn't matter. So let's get to number 1 on this list. Bam! Dead weight makes you feel strong while making you weaker. You're going to gain power. It's usually emotional power while losing structural power. Weak allies make you feel capable because you're usually the one rescuing them, you're leading them, you're supporting them and stabilizing them. And there's a boost in an ego that you get from that, right? You feel good. But what winds up happening is that ego boost is completely disconnected from the systems of your own power. So you'll get that boosted ego while simultaneously erosion is happening in those systems beneath it. There's a point where all of us have, I'm 50 years old, maybe I'm being a bit presumptuous by thinking that you guys have experienced this too, but I think it is fairly common that you feel like the responsible one in your group, the capable one in your group. And that feels good. But at some point you have this epiphany where you're like, wait a minute, my life hasn't gotten any better, I'm still better than those guys are doing, but I don't think I'm continuing the trajectory that I had prior to taking this role amongst these people. And that's why number 1 is dead weight makes you feel strong while making you weaker. Again, guys, any questions or comments, put them in the chat and I will respond. By the way, these banners also remove themselves from the screen in 60 seconds now, so I don't know how to stop that. But let's get to number 2, right? So in case you missed it, number 1, dead weight makes you feel strong while making you weaker. Let's get to number 2. Dead weight replaces pressure with validation. I don't think this is too complex an idea to get. You get comfort instead of challenge, right? I'm the pressure to power guy. There's a certain point where when you become addicted to comfort, comfort is a feeling that is not conducive to the type of pressure that makes you adapt and become stronger. It destroys movement. The thing about being around weak allies, what we would call dead weight, is they reward you for staying the same. It's paradoxical, contradictory to some extent, but they appreciate you for all your strengths. But if you continue to be stronger, there's a certain point where you will start leaving them. And so they'll actually maybe not sabotage your ability to go away directly, but they will start rewarding you for staying there. They never are going to pressure you to improve. They're never going to call you on your shit when you're getting in your own way. They're going to allow you to be comfortable, being vulnerable or stagnant in some case. They're never going to test you. They're going to make sure they keep you emotionally comfortable. While, again, and this is a recurring thing, the structure of your life that maybe had been up until that point bringing you greater levels of strength, they're going to have that decline. They're going to allow that to decline and continue to make you feel good about the feedback that you're getting from them. So number 2, dead weight replaces pressure with validation. Comment. Here's Aaron. Aaron writes, dead weight validates one's feelings even when they're, I think that says gay. by their friends who would rather them stay weak so they can feel more powerful and influential. They literally want you to have the same problems. Man, I hope that makes sense. I think it does. I think it does because it coincides with my description of what I had just shared before. And I think a lot of us have examples of that and observations of that, where you'll have people that, man, they really like you losing like they are, and understand too, not only do they not want you to leave them, but a lot of times too, they don't want you to be a mirror that reminds them of the shit that they need to work on. Right? So they will do these things, and I'm not even willing to say they're always doing it consciously. You'll have weak friends that are deadweight allies, to use this terminology, that are completely consciously disconnected from how they sabotaged your momentum by incentivizing you bailing and rejecting the structure and the system and the process that got you as strong as you are in the first place. They don't even necessarily need to know that it's happening, right? So let's get to number 3. Deadweight normalizes lower standards without you noticing. Deadweight normalizes lower standards without you noticing. And this happens subtly, incrementally. Sometimes it could be a little bit more overt, a little bit more abrupt, but a lot of times it's really that slow decline. You just wind up adjusting downward over time, and a lot of times it's to avoid conflict that may appear. Sometimes it's to avoid outgrowing them. Sometimes, we become addicted to this circle of friends because of the stability it provides, the security it provides. It's comfortable, it's familiar. And because it's comfortable and familiar, we could sort of rely on it. And it winds up being something we don't want to sabotage. So we ourselves start just adjusting and lowering our standards. We don't want to make people feel bad, right? There are times where, I'll have an opportunity to do something, and I'm with a group of people that not all of them could do the thing that I plan on doing. It's almost rude to do it despite knowing that these people can't do it. And it's, I'm not saying that you should stay around weak people because it would be rude not to. I'm just using an example of, like, what I'm thinking specifically of is when I host events and there's some physical component to the event and somebody's, going through some sort of, physical thing, and he can't do the thing that I want to do. I have to find a way for him to be able to do it. But if we're now not in that, very easy to understand real world scenario or example, and we're now in the case with dealing with our allies, if you're moving in a certain trajectory and you realize your friends can't go with you, understand there is a pull to lower your standards. It is something that could happen organically. And you might not even be aware of it. You were going to go to college, not the best example, but you're going to go to college, in another state because they had this one program that you really wanted to train in. But all your friends or maybe your girlfriend, they're here and I don't want to leave this social circle, so I'm going to stay more local, and sabotaging the trajectory of your momentum just to accommodate the people that you happen to be around, that they themselves, like, why aren't they going away and doing something? Why is it that they would allow for you to adjust your trajectory? Shouldn't they have their own trajectory that you have to adapt to? Like, why is this just you? There are times in life where you'll notice this, right? Aaron says, gay is just a nicer way to say gay. Well, listen, up in Canada, you guys, you might have to write it that way moving forward at some point. I got your back, though. I got your back. It's fucked up there. There, you're like, man, guys are going through it. Jamie says, children cost, but they improve and repay. The elderly cost, but they have already paid. Only retards cost and never pay. Only cost. That's right. That's right. You guys should have seen by now my parasite killer, right? There's a video on it. You can go and check it out. I just recently posted a meme with it. And the parasite killer is built around this idea that, the whole reason, the whole purpose of having an ally is it's supposed to be mutual in nature. There's a synergy that's created by being connected to people. You put in something, they put in something, and together it winds up producing something that hadn't existed until you guys came together in that alliance. That's the whole idea of a mutualistic, alliance. There's a point where one person keeps putting in, but he stops getting that synergy. And then eventually he keeps putting in, stops getting the synergy, but suddenly the cost starts going up. So not only is he not getting the synergy, which originally was a product of the investment of energy that he put into the alliance, but now the investment is even higher and he's not getting a return. And that's when the ally had devolved into a parasite. And we have to be aware of that, because the thing about parasites too, and I make this point in the Parasite Killer video, and I wrote an essay on it. It's not a traitor in that they're looking to undermine the integrity of your mission. No, parasites they want you to live forever. They want you to stay strong. They want you to keep doing what you're doing so long as you let them stay attached. That's the distinction between a parasite and what I would call in Tribalnomics a traitor. A traitor has a mission that undermines your mission. They might not know about it, right? That's the difference between a fool and an enemy. A fool, his mission is sabotaging your mission, but he's unaware of it, right? An enemy is the one that knows their mission sabotages yours, but is still doing it covertly. Parasites, they might not even know they're being parasitic, right? So it's something to pay attention to. What is the point of this, the purpose of this? Remember, my phrase, loyalty is an investment, not a debt. I have to be loyal to him. Why? Because I've known him since I'm a kid. That is not in and of itself a validation for loyalty. I've known a lot of people a long time that I can't stand. The fact that I can't stand them, or the fact that we're completely incompatible, is not undone because of the length of time I've known them. Right? It's not a metric that we should consider when trying to figure out how we're treating allies in that case. So let's keep it moving. So far, we have number 1, DeadWeight makes you feel strong while making you weaker. Number 2, DeadWeight replaces pressure with validation. Number 3, DeadWeight normalizes lower standards without you noticing. Let's get to number 4. DeadWeight turns you into a caretaker instead of a leader. Everything in terms of movement takes energy. That energy's got to come from somewhere. We don't have an unlimited supply. I'm always talking about the priority that men should have in keeping their state optimized, right? And state sometimes coincides with being in a good mood. It doesn't necessarily have to be considered a good mood. But I would say something that it does correlate to a little bit more consistently is a supply of energy to move, right? Dead weight takes that energy that we would normally use to advance our mission, to pursue the vision that we're currently pursuing, whatever that is. And it sort of redirects it towards holding these weak men together. You wind up shifting into a babysitter. You're not leading anybody anywhere. You're just making sure that everybody survives where they are. You ever see the visual of like a preschool or maybe a babysitter, and the elderly ladies watching a bunch of babies at once, and they have like the pen on the floor, and like puppies, the babies are crawling around, playing with stuff. That's what you become when you surround yourself with dead weight. You waste the limited bandwidth that we all have managing the emotions of these people instead of building your own capacity. A phrase that I use a lot in my mastermind is we must transcend the current limitations of our current capacity, or the limitations of our current capacity. If we're only capable of a certain amount, and our bandwidth represents our sort of cognitive ability to facilitate those capabilities. If we want more, we have to become more. And whatever that process winds up being of just improvement, we don't have to get into the mechanics as I see it, but just generally improving ourselves. We don't have energy to just give away to these people. And every time that we do, we have to understand the cost of that, the consequence of that. And it just means you're just not going to move in the direction you claim to want to move in as effectively as you could. Now, understand too, like I'm all about loyalty. I consider myself a loyal person. I'm very tribal in nature. And my alliance is usually significant. Sometimes having me as an ally weighs on people, and I think that's appropriate because they do feel a certain amount of pressure to sort of keep their own pace. But it's only because I don't want them to turn into deadweight. I don't want them to think that I'm going to be connected to them if they're deadweight. And that's not always comfortable for them. But I don't want to be a caretaker. I want to be an ally. I want to be a leader. Which means I have to sort of be the tip of the spear of the group's pursuit of mission if I'm part of a group. As I see it, like I'm always looking to how do I help the group get there? How do I help the group get there? I don't need to have the authority or the hierarchy or even, nothing like that. That's not what I mean. I just mean there's a commitment to moving, a commitment to progress. Well, if I'm just making sure that everybody stays functional in maintaining their identities, well, now I'm just taking care of people. I'm the babysitter with the pen full of toddlers, making sure they don't swallow a fucking a thumbtack or something. I don't know why there's thumbtacks in the pen. Right? So number 4, again, let me bring that up, is deadweight turns you into a caretaker instead of a leader. You guys have had experiences. You're spending hours with somebody fixing a problem. Everything seems great. They're super grateful. Then 3 fucking months later, they're in the same predicament. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? But you think, because if you're not dead weight, you're not somebody who lives his life that way, who looks at the world that way, you might think, well, yeah, I helped him fix that. It's fixed. Nobody needs to be perfect, but this is fixed. What you're not realizing is people that wind up becoming these dead weight figures, like taking that type of role in an alliance, to them, it's just a cycle. What? I destroy something. I wind up in a jam. You come and you help me. I'm super grateful for you helping me. You feel appreciated because I'm showing you that gratitude. And then I go away. And then eventually I get back to it. Like that's our thing. That's how they see it. And it's up to you to determine whether or not you're somebody who wants to play that role along with them. That cycle that they're designing, it's like, do you want to be led by the followers? Dead weight is different from the type of anchor that really tethers you to a committed position, right? I'm a believer in marriage, right? Get married, commit, have this structure in marriage, what they'll call the institution of marriage, that makes it a little bit more difficult to sort of just erode and drift away from the commitment of this relationship. It is a structured, codified level of commitment to this relationship. That's what marriage is. Sometimes people, they don't want that connection. They don't want to just stay committed to a standard or a trajectory, or a pace, maybe is a good word for it. And it's up to you. Do you want to stay connected to this or not? And we have to have an understanding of, because I'm not even going to put a value judgment on it. I could, obviously I'm implying one, but like, just understand the cost. Just understand the cost. Before we get to the last one, we got some comments here. Cooking Combat. Okay. What's up, Cooking Combat? Cooking Combat asks, how do you reckon how you treat allies as your journey and mission changes, but their interest in lives remained more entrenched to where you both were previously? Great question. One that I deal with often. In Tribalnomics, my book that you may or may not have read, I talk about identities. I use the image of two circles, and there's an overlap, right? Sort of like a Venn diagram. Two individuals, when they are overlapped enough, they wind up developing that intersection of overlap, which is what they have in common. And sometimes people, as they move through life, they have this common area, right? The overlap, the intersection of their identities, that it just makes sense for them to connect in some sort of mutualistic way because they both benefit from it. But it is to be expected that just engaging life, people are going to move. And the area that was overlapped over time might decrease to the point where what do we say, commonly in society? We say, oh, we grew apart. Well, that has a very, it doesn't have to be abstract. It can be described tangibly. People are busy pursuing their individual missions. There's going to be a point where their allies, if they're doing the same, they're going to grow apart regardless. So it doesn't always have to be that the downgrade of an alliance occurs because one person was stagnant and the other person was ambitious, or the other person was moving. It is just the nature of alliance itself to look at an alliance and its lifespan as an arc. You meet somebody, you wind up engaging, you have the reason to be together. That reason becomes less significant, less relevant over time, and eventually the original reason that added the upward trajectory of the alliance starts to dissipate to the point where it's no longer relevant. It becomes obsolete. So now, how do you stay connected with people for a long time? Two things happen. Either they fill a role outside of that short-lived arc with a role that has a long-term arc, like family. My brother and I have a younger brother. He and I have plenty of things in common, but plenty of things not in common. We live an hour and a half away from one another. Growing up, we'd, like most brothers, get into fights, a couple of fist fights. Like we were crazy people when we were younger, right? But that's my brother. I would do anything for my brother. My brother can call me right now and say, I need you at my house right now. I'll be there in an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 15, a little icy out, maybe an hour 40, But at no point do I have to qualify it. If he needs me there, I'm there. But even though we're not in this, we both work at the same place, we both lift weights the same, we both train martial arts the same, we are brothers. So that arc exists outside of anything we happen to be doing together at the time. And that's what preserves these long-term relationships. The other way that you can extend an arc once it's ended is you begin a new arc. Some of my best friends in my life are also my students, are also my business partners. I used to host the Pressure Project with White Boy Pat. A lot of you guys remember White Boy Pat. White Boy Pat was a student that joined my school one day. Ironically, he came in the first day, took a trial class, and he said, yeah, I'll be here Tuesday. It was like, I don't know, like a Saturday. I'm like, I'll be here Monday or Tuesday with the money. Like so many other people have told me before. And I was like, sure, no problem. I'll see you then. And we left. It's like, yeah, I'll never fucking see that guy again. Well, not only did he come back and sign up, but he trained like a maniac, eventually getting to the point where we co-hosted a podcast. Then he opened another jungle gym school. Now he runs a jungle gym. He's married. He has kids. He has a home. Like this all grew. Like right now, literally our sons, like my black belt sons who are my closest friends, my inner circle guys, all of our sons are staying in my house this week, which was super convenient because it snowed like yesterday. So they're all shoveling. So it's great. So I'm like the sort of Pai Mei Miyagi right now, snow on, snow off. But the idea is when White Boy Pat and I first connected, the arc was, here's a guy that joined my school. Who knows? Some people join my school 3 to 6 months later. I never see them again. But at the end of every arc, there was another one. When these arcs increase in power, it resembles a stairwell. And these stairs now allow you to climb as allies. So we wind up not only more powerfully connected, but our alliance is more powerfully productive. Right? So getting back to your question, Cook and Combat, how do you reckon how you treat allies as your journey or mission changes, but their interests and lives remain more entrenched where we both were previously? You keep it moving. In my parasite killer system or model, you set the criteria, right? So I've had a bunch of friends over the years that when I became obsessed with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 20-something years ago, I went from playing basketball every day and going to the movies and hanging out every weekend to training every day, all day, as much as I could. A lot of close friends of mine, oh, you don't hang out anymore, you don't do this. And I would tell them, listen, I got to do this thing. We can hang out every day, but you got to train jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm here at this spot every day. So I set that criteria for them, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice the trajectory of my efforts to just accommodate their desire to have us sort of stay where we always were. It's not the way life works, right? There's no pause button in reality. We have to evolve. We have to be pursuing power. We can't do that in some, fucking timeless circle jerk with our childhood friends, right? Jamie writes, DeadWeight isn't only other people, it's also emotional baggage, anger, resentment, stuff that can only ever detract, never add. Absolutely. And grief parasites have built very lucrative careers out of convincing people to hold on to their emotional dead weight. I would say to that point, there's, when I talk about therapy, it's like therapy is where men go to learn how to act like emotional women. They want to talk about their problems all day. Who the fuck wants to talk about their problems? It's bad enough we have the problems. Now we got to talk about the problems? No, that's not how it fucking works. That's not how men operate. And I don't mean that in some sort of archaic, real men only. No, I'm talking about a pragmatic, functional perspective of how men navigate a world that is not very accommodating to begin with. They have to keep it moving. They have to stay mission-oriented, mission-driven. We don't have time to add, depth to the narratives that identify us as a victim of some circumstance, that by the time we're painting a detailed enough picture, it's already fucking gone. Now we're keeping this thing alive ourselves. You just got to let it go and keep it moving. Cooking Combat writes, that makes sense. Being intentional with how you can create arcs and things you can pursue together. That's right. That's right. It's one of those things where there's got to be a reason why we're connected. And I don't mean to make it sort of transactional, but if we're going to observe the value of staying connected to somebody and investing the finite amount of time that we have in this connection, we have to make sense of it. I have 4 kids. There's plenty of times where guys are like, hey, we should hang out. We should do this. And I'm like, no, why? Because I need to fucking hang out with my kids. My kids get my time before you do. Once they're taken care of, then we could do other things. Right? But I never lose the context of the mission that I'm on. Yarn Sachs says, what if a man is suicidal and genuinely needs therapy because of the weight of the things are just too much? So when I say therapy, let me be a little bit more descriptive so it doesn't get misinterpreted. And I appreciate that question, because it allows me the ability to do this. Therapy, when I use the term, is the psychoanalysis-driven process of exploring problems through abstract narratives and looking to modify the existing narratives into some sort of plan to reduce the weight of said narratives. I feel it is more effectively therapeutic to delete those narratives build a new narrative, and then move in the real world to support the validity of the new narrative. You're on Saxo, you've been watching my stuff for a while, as a lot of you have. One of my sayings, only power from the past. There's something to be said for somebody who adorns the label of some traumatic event that happened to them. I'm a rape survivor. Okay. I'm an alcoholic. Okay. Do what you want. But what if we take somebody who grew up in some war-torn country and was raped multiple times at some point, was addicted to drugs at some point to cope, was abandoned and abused and went through all this stuff, but is now he's turned his life around and built an incredible, trajectory of events that have led him to surplus and family and all these powerful things. Is he supposed to tell everybody that he's some sort of victim? And which is it? Is he a rape survivor? Is he a drug addict? Does he have to bring that with him to every new alliance he builds? And if he doesn't, is he being inauthentic? Am I not being authentic if I don't tell people all the shit that happened to me? And if I don't want to talk about the shit that happened to me, am I running from my past? It's like, you see how this just doesn't fucking, the math ain't mathin' is the phrase, right? There's a certain point where it's like, well, who the fuck are you going to be moving forward? Because you got 20 fucking hats from your past if you want to put them on, but none of them build what you said you want to build moving forward. So why don't we just leave those hats on the fucking shelf where they belong? Knowing full well there's plenty of other shit that we're going to have to endure later on. But if we're carrying that baggage with us, at what point are we just compounding these things? Creating this completely imaginary narrative that overwhelms us. It just ain't the way to go. Right? I try to not reduce everything to just stop being a bitch and just do what you got to do. I'd like to be a little bit more nuanced to that. And hopefully I can at least provide some insight to show and prove that there is a little bit more nuance to that. But perhaps, unfortunately for sometimes it's just shut the fuck up and keep it moving. It comes down to that, right? Yaron Saxa says, I must be a man then. That's my attitude. Got to keep moving. It's good to acknowledge the past, but you can't let it make you a victim. That's right. Right. Victim, you ever see those name tags at like meetings and stuff? I was going to say at AA meetings, but I guess you don't. The tags say mind your business, right? Or it says anonymous, but you wouldn't do it there. But meetings, like the victim label is one that everybody always has to put on themselves. That's the only way you're labeled a victim. You have to put that on yourself. So you make that decision, that's fine. But I'm not the guy. It's just not me. Let's keep it moving. So we went through so far number 1, right? And this list is the 5 ways deadweight allies break you. So number 1, deadweight makes you feel strong while making you weaker. Number 2, deadweight replaces pressure with validation. Number 3, deadweight normalizes lower standards without you noticing. Number 4, deadweight turns you into a caretaker instead of a leader. Let's get to the 5th of 5 reasons or ways deadweight allies break you. And it is deadweight makes you question your direction instead of theirs. If you consider yourself to be loyal, supportive, reliable, at some point you will doubt yourself without ever turning that perspective on the people that you're connected to. Weak allies will frame your ambitions as unrealistic. They'll tell you you're either too greedy or too extreme, or hey, you need to relax. Stop and smell the roses sometimes. And they tend to frame your ambition to grow as an abandonment of who you are. And it's very convenient, right? If you continue on that path, never mind, you'll leave me over here where I'm at. But how do you know you'll even continue to be you? Who are you trying to please? This isn't you. And the thing is, there's only so much resistance that you can have to being exposed to that messaging over and over again. Recently, I talked about the FADE framework, right? And the FADE framework is just the process that somebody's exposed to information repetitively enough to where not only do they normalize it and accept it, but at some point they actually start defending it and seeing themselves as people who have always identified with it. And it could be something completely opposite from their original positions, right? Stockholm syndrome is an example of how that FADE framework can play out over time because of repetitive exposure to messaging. If you hear day in, day out, it's not worth it. You're gonna spread yourself too thin. You're gonna burn out. You're being too materialistic, or you're not being loyal enough, or like whatever the messaging is. There's a certain point where if you keep exposing yourself to it, you're going to accept it. And number 5, DeadWeight makes you question your direction instead of theirs is one of the outcomes of that exposure. How many times have you had somebody, a friend of yours, tell you, after telling them that you did something that you're proud of, yeah, that's cool. or they either downplay it and disregard its significance, or they legitimately can't appreciate it because they can't relate to it. Sometimes I'll write an email, and the email will just, at the end of it, I'm like, man, I did that right. Like I put it out exactly as I wanted to. And then I have people respond to it. Either they're responding and replying to me through messaging, or it was about getting this program and a bunch of people get the program, and it just validates like, man, this thing, like the sequence just hit it. I understand that if I share that with my wife, she could appreciate my enthusiasm. She could even intellectually understand the process and appreciate that I was successful in something that I was trying to do. But she doesn't know how hard it is to write copy that compels people to act. Like that's not what she does. So there's a limit to how much she can appreciate it. And that's fine. She's not a copywriter. But what if you're a man who's surrounded by men friends and you're trying to be physically stronger? And because they have no aspiration of becoming physically stronger, they're like, oh, what are you going to get all the muscles? Like, oh, what are you going to? Or a common thing that I've heard, and it's so like cliche, like the fact that I've heard this in real life, it's like, really? It's what do you carry a gun for? What do you need guns? Like, what are you scared somebody's trying to get you? And it's like, well, is that why people carry guns, or why people believe in guns, and own guns? Like, because they're paranoid? Is that your position? And it's just, you understand that they're so detached from the concept, the premises that you're leading your life by, that you just don't even expect them to get it. Happens all the time, right? Comments. Aaron Saxa says, are you familiar with the dirt road metaphor? Nope, never heard it. Maybe I did. That doesn't ring a bell, though. Aaron says, these days, some rap 3, I know what you mean, but I also am going to abide by the algorithmic structure that we're operating in. These days, some survivors have friggin' anniversaries for it 2 years ago about the like, oh my God, like how disgusting. I'm so glad I didn't see that like anywhere because I might, oh man, I might be the asshole. I shouldn't do that. But sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult to not, because I always think I'm helping in the back of my head. I consciously know that I'm not helping, or I should say I intellectually know I'm not helping. But emotionally, I'm like, well, somebody's got to tell them what they need to hear. And it's like, it's not your job, asshole. Shut up. Happens to me all the time. Aaron writes, there's no PS with the quote today. Not true. I sent 2 emails today, right? So I sent an email this morning. I'm going to look right now. I sent an email this morning, and the subject line of the email was petty kings and their petty kingdoms. And the PS was something I actually shared earlier in this talk, the quote of the day that Aaron's referring to in the email that I send every day. Today was, I've never met a problem that being a better man wouldn't solve. So go check it out. Yeah, on Wednesdays, I usually don't send 2 emails. I'm starting to. But I got more content being generated these last few weeks than probably the last few months, and I'm pretty fired up. So on Wednesdays, I'm going to start sending not only the stream announcement, but I'm going to send an additional email, a regular email along with the stream announcement. So that's that. So, all right, what do we got? Let's go over the list one more time. Number 1, DeadWeight makes you feel strong while making you weaker. Number 2, DeadWeight replaces pressure with validation. Number 3, DeadWeight normalizes lower standards without you noticing. Number 4, DeadWeight turns you into a caretaker instead of a leader. And number 5, DeadWeight makes you question your direction instead of theirs. So all of this is around the concept of the DeadWeight paradox, right? The paradox, again, is the sort of comfort and validation you get from carrying this dead weight in your life that paradoxically is actually sabotaging your power. You're getting this feedback of success from all these people. You must be doing it right. You must be moving in the right direction. But remember, being the strongest person in the room sometimes distracts you from the fact that you never leave the room. That is the deadweight paradox. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on this Wednesday. Everything's getting better, man. I really like the way this stuff's going. I got the Friction Audit. The link should be in the description. Guys, right now it'll be $47 eventually. It's $9 right now. Go there, and I'm not going to make $1 million with a $9 product. I understand that. You understand that, hopefully, too. But it is such a valuable tool and process. It's written to be implemented, not written to be some, oh, here, read this 80-page essay I wrote about this obscure topic that you don't even understand because the context it's not that at all. It's real-world examples, action steps, plans, ways to be accountable, literally a 3-day process to put yourself through to optimize your relationship with friction. Some friction's good. Want big muscles, got to lift big weights. But some friction's bad. Dead weight being an example of that. In the friction audit, this falls under the category of relational friction. But you guys will become experts at it if you check it out. So let's end it there. I put it down the way I wanted to. Everything went well. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I will be here next week. Check the links in the description. And as always, brothers and sisters, pressure to power.